speaking of relegation, there's kind of a relegation coming. Speaking of is our transition for the night, everybody. But speaking of relegation, there's kind of like a little bit of almost a relegation style coming to the NBA play-in tournament, which starts May 18th. Connor, we're 2 weeks away from something that LeBron James came out and said whoever came up with that idea needs to get fired.
And did you see that there were some top executives that were saying whoever came up with that idea needs to get promoted?
I did
Because
not see
there's
the
a lot
executive
of
side.
yeah, so very very interesting stuff here. But yeah, there's a lot of storylines. You've got the Wizards pulling it together, and Wizards are a playoff team. They were really really bad earlier in the year, and as it stands right now, they can say they've made the 2021 NBA playoffs.
Yes, we kind of wrote the Wizards off this show saying Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, doing super good job, but doesn't really matter. And now there they are. They're in 10th place. They're making a run. Russell Westbrook had a nasty triple double last night, 14 points, 21 rebounds, 24 assists. An amazing play which he did this home run pass, like touchdown pass all the way down across the court to Bradley Beal, laying it in. Just absolutely incredible play. They look like a different team.
Yeah, they for sure are playing really well right now, and I still think the East is all about kind of the top three and then everybody else. But you've got some opportunity for the Wizards to really be able to make it some noise, make it seem a little more doable, and just create a little bit more interest, especially in the East.
In the East, of course, the top three teams are the 76ers, the Nets, and the Bucks. But in fourth place is the the New York Knicks, which I can't believe we're saying here on French Stream Sports. Connor, I know you've been secretly watching the New York Knicks. How are they doing this? Because this is not the New York Knicks we all thought of a long, long time ago.
As to go behind the scenes a little bit of our show notes. This brief segment is entitled "Are the Knicks actually good?" And I think that might be the number one sports related question that I ask people, and no one seems to be able to give me a straight answer on this. I think number one, obviously, Derrick Rose has been playing really really well. Uh, they've been able to string together some wins. Julius Randle's on a heater. They've been able to play a lot of good ball. Now, I think here's the question: is you got to remember who their coach is and a little bit of the track record of their coach, right? Tom Thibodeau has been a good coach over time and has been able to be a really good regular season coach. But the question will be, is this just another Tom Thibodeau coach team where they're going to take the regular season very very seriously and then kind of trail off at the end? I think these last 7 games that the Knicks have are going to be very critical. They play Denver, Phoenix, Clippers, Lakers, Spurs, Hornets, and Celtics. I did that all while looking at my little screen, not my big screen here, while playing NBA 2K. But
Oh, that
I think that the Knicks could very well go 2-5 down that stretch, and we still don't know if they're actually any good because those are a lot of really good teams they have coming up.
they have a lot of good coming up, and I think it will. We'll be watching the playoffs and watching the play-in tournament, going, are the Knicks even any good? And at the 4 seed, they could skip the play-in tournament. They
They could skip the play-in tournament and play a team like Boston, who has some issues,
mhm,
right? And they could win a playoff series
yeah,
between either Boston or Atlanta, depending on who ends up being kind of that 4-5 matchup. That's probably I think the most interesting uh, first round series.
right now as it goes, yes, they would play Atlanta in the first round, and especially pending on how Trey Smith is doing and how he comes out for the playoffs after being injured, which in my opinion was just too late. Uh, Boston, they could win that series. All right, I get the ball back. Speaking of someone getting the ball back, speaking of transitions, the Lakers last night, they actually came back and beat the Nuggets, and I got a chance to stay up a little later than you, Connor, and watch this game. AD put in about 26 minutes, and then he had to sit with the team position to get that right calf sort of massaged. They're bringing him back in the fold, but it was good to watch. They were down in the Nuggets until the third quarter, then they started to drive back, but a lot of what it showed with the Lakers is what made them so good in the bubble. What made the Lakers good in the bubble? Their bench depth. I will say, losing Rajon Rondo and losing Dwight Howard is showing its impact to them. Of course, they have a lot of people hurt, but you're not as good as your starters as you're as good as your entire bench. So uh, we have to see what they can do to sort of bounce back and how the Lakers can make themselves in contention. They are currently in the West. They are a 5 seed. So if they don't get themselves together and start winning some games, they could end up in that play-in tournament playing a lot more games than they wanted to. So that's going on with the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for the Lakers will just be making sure LeBron and AD are coming back healthy, right? It's not, especially in the playoffs, right? It's not necessarily your 12th best player that makes the difference, but you gotta have 8 strong players, right? And there are some times where all you're playing for that one night is 8 guys throughout the course of a game, and you're just rotating 8. But that means you got to be tight 1 through 8. So definitely agree. I think that it's probably just more about making sure they're healthy and you got some rhythm. LeBron's feeling good, ready to roll, and we're rocking and rolling. So no, I think it'll be the West is going to be a ton of fun to watch this year in the playoffs. I still kind of think the Clippers have a lot to say about who ends up winning the West, but that's just me. So speaking of wings like the Clippers have, Dallas and their big wing guy Luka has been lighting it up lately. Light it up, Luka. Rutledge. Have you been kind of following the Mavericks?
I have more been following the decline of Portland than I have been following the rise of the Mavericks. I will say Luka has been playing out of his mind basketball. Just like that pass was out of my mind frustrating. Um, Luka definitely is emerging himself as he's going to be a talent that we talk about for a long time here on French Stream Sports. So loving to see that, loving to see how great he's doing. I'm surprised he's not on this lineup that you have. Um,
He's a bench player.
he is a bench player.
Dallas has some good players, man.
Dallas has got some depth where uh, Portland is not. I don't know. I can't even describe what's happening tonight. But
That's all right. The last time we played, you had the mighty second half comeback. So
I did.
definitely,
Everyone loves a good comeback story. But I will say this as we wrap up. It has been the moment I want to share in the NBA was Carmelo Anthony moved up the scoring list, all-time scoring list, and gave like a thank you speech in the locker room. And I've never been in a basketball locker room, but you could tell even though it's a great accomplishment for him, no one really cared. So I think that Portland is in trouble. They're going to be in the play-in tournament, and I think that Dallas is going to secure themselves even though they just have a half game over Portland. I think Dallas is heating up at the right time.
just like that shot almost heated up at the right time. So a lot of fun NBA to follow as this season winds down. As always, the NBA will give us some really big time storylines that will be fun to watch as summer heats up.